So Gordon Ryan had a fantastic run through ADCC, both in his division and also in the absolute. Went 4-0 in both the division and then 4-0 in the absolute, so 8-0 overall. 3 submissions and one win on points in both divisions as well. So we'll go through each of his matches and just talk about what he was able to find, how people were approaching him, and how he was able to handle it. I think one of the interesting storylines here with Gordon Ryan was that everyone knows coming into this tournament that he's got a fantastic heel hook game. So for the most part, a lot of people are going to want to be avoiding particularly, I guess, depending on who you're talking to, what they call, whether it's the saddle, the inside or outside Senkaku, or 411. But effectively, his leg lock game where he gets that reposition and is able to attack a heel hook from there. And what we were seeing from a lot of people is that they were just keeping their hips back and they weren't giving him a chance to get underneath his legs or get underneath their legs or entangle their legs. And so he was forced into a position where, on one hand, he was at a benefit where if these guys weren't going into positions where they could potentially risk getting elevated and getting their legs snatched up, they were taking a lot of offense away from themselves. But on the other hand, it was forcing Gordon Ryan to have to use some other skills he has, and he definitely showed that he has some other skills. So his first match in his division, he goes up against Ben Hodgkinson, gets his back pretty quick. And one of the interesting things from Hodgkinson is that he was aware of something that a lot of other people weren't able to defend here, and that's when Gordon Ryan gets your back, what he likes to do is use his left hand to push your left hand down, use his left leg to snatch up the left hand, and then get into a position where he's trapped one of your arms. Then he has a 2-on-1 where he can use one arm to take care of your other arm and then the other arm to choke. So Hodgkinson does a good job of keeping his hand up here, really defending against that. But even still, Gordon Ryan still finds a way to pummel through and eventually get his hand underneath the chin, or close enough to underneath the chin at least. This wasn't quite under the chin, but he had a really nasty neck crank on here where you can see Hodgkinson's spine is pointing this way while his head is pointing that way. So between the choke and the neck crank, he's got enough pressure here to get the tap. So he wins that match. Then he goes up against Tim Spriggs. An interesting position that I saw a lot of here. A lot of people, when they were in dealing with takedowns, whether people were just shooting from the feet or whether they were coming up on a sweep, a lot of times people would just kind of like turn and sort of like risk showing their back just so they wouldn't give up the points. Now, at this point, I don't know what Spriggs was thinking because points weren't really a factor here. But as Ryan comes up here, Spriggs doesn't get a decent whizzer, and as a result, Ryan's able to get to his back, has his back for a while, and then eventually gets the tap here with 2 minutes and 51 seconds left. Moving on into the semifinals, definitely the toughest match in his division that he had to deal with was Lucas Barboza. Barboza and him did not score any points in the first 10-minute period, so then they go to overtime. Barboza gets really close to getting a takedown and is fighting for it for about two minutes, but never was able to finish it, never able to get the points. Eventually, he gets caught in this front headlock position from Gordon Ryan, and Gordon's going to start to circle around. Gets to a point here where he's got a crucifix from top, position I don't see as much as I'd like to see either in jiu-jitsu or MMA. I think it's a really useful position, but it was cool to see Gordon attack from here. But with Barboza being sweaty and as good as he is, I think he was just like, hey, I've got better positions to attack from. Eventually works his way around to a back take here. Gets the one hook across. Still fighting for that second hook, though. And then finally gets that second hook after using like a quarter Nelson here. So with 55 seconds left, Gordon Ryan gets the lead and is able to hang on and get the victory here by a score of 3-0. So that takes him to the finals against Vinicius, Tractor, Ferreira, or Gazzola. A lot of people are hoping that he would go up against Vinny Magalhães. Vinny lost to Tractor. Sort of a weird circumstance where Vinny shot in on a really lazy takedown and then pulled guard. And with ADCC rules, if you shoot in, or if you just pull guard straight up, you get a negative point scored against you. But if you shoot in and you're fighting for about 3 seconds, then you pull, it's nothing. So I guess Vinny lost track of time, so shot in quick and then pulled right at the end of the match. Like I don't think if he wasn't trying to play the game, if he was just trying to actually go for the takedown, I think he would have been fine there. They would have gone to overtime, but I guess he was just trying to find a way to get on his back. Made a big mistake right at the end of the 10-minute period and ended up losing. So as a result, instead of Vinny Magalhães versus Gordon Ryan rematch from the match they had at ACB, we just get Gordon versus Vinicius Tractor. Gordon's eventually able to smash from top of half guard. We see this position later on from him as well. Eventually passes to mount and then works his way to the back. Sort of where this picture got caught in here. This is from earlier in the match where Tractor for a second was starting to look at the attacking legs. I don't know if he was trying to go for a sweep off of this or if he wanted to see if he could actually catch a leg lock on Gordon, but didn't work out, and eventually he got his back taken. But here's that position I was talking about before that Hodgkinson was very well aware of, is that Ryan likes to trap the left arm with his left leg, and then with his free hand, or with the right hand, block his opponent's right hand, and then with the free hand, sneak underneath the chin. So that's what he did to Tractor, ends up getting the tap right here. So that's him winning his division. Then we move on to the absolute. First round versus Pedro Moreno. We get to see an actual leg lock from Gordon Ryan, which is something you'd grown to expect, but for the most part, a lot of guys were doing everything they could to avoid these positions. Moreno kind of got caught here in transition and ends up in single leg X. So Gordon goes from single leg X, extends him out, and then while Moreno's lost his balance, Gordon's then able to get that outside reap that I was talking about here. So that's that saddle type position. Although I guess he doesn't have control of this leg, so I don't know if that's technically a saddle or not, or a honey hole or whatever they want to call it. But the outside reap is the main thing he's looking for here, and he has it over the top of the knee as well. Gets the grip on the heel, cranks, gets the tap. So then we have this match with Gary Tonin, who at a time was his coach, also a training partner. Much smaller guy than him, but even still, it was sort of weird how this match worked out, because it seemed as though Gary Tonin was under some kind of impression that was going to be playful, and Gordon was just out there to compete and get the win. So 13 seconds in, Tonin sort of like going for a lazy knee bar here. I don't know what was going on there, what he was thinking, if he was just like, yeah, whatever, like, I don't really care. Gordon's probably going to be the one to win anyway. Like, I just don't understand what the thought process was for Gary Tonin here. But it did feel like Tonin was under the impression they were just going to go out and play, and Gordon was under the impression that he was just going to go out and get the win. So exposes his back here. You have Gordon trying to roll through on a back take. Still rolling through. Gets one hook in. Has to readjust. Controlling from top. Gets his body triangle in. And from here, like we saw in the final of his weight, he's able to trap that left arm and eventually get the tap here. So here you can see he's fighting to get that left arm and then push it down towards his hips. Does that, throws the leg over. Now he has control of the arm. So now, again, you have that same position where right arm blocks right arm, left arm is free to go for the neck. Sinks underneath, and eventually he's able to get the tap here. So then he ends up facing off against Lachlan Giles. An interesting match here in that you have two guys who both like to go for heel hooks. Lachlan was not concerned about going for him himself. He understood that he'd be getting himself in leg entanglements with Gordon Ryan by doing what he was doing, but he was confident in his ability there, and didn't seem like he was wrong for thinking that way. Not that he was successful on his attacks, but it's not as though he was ever in grave danger of getting leg locked himself. But one of the interesting things here is that we saw with a couple of Gordon's opponents, they just did not want to try to pass through his guard. They tried to go around his guard just to avoid a lot of leg entanglements. Gordon felt comfortable passing through Lachlan Giles' guard. So while early Giles was attacking, having trouble controlling the knee at times, or staying over top of the knee, eventually Gordon's going to be able to avoid the few attacks that Lachlan did have here, and then get into half guard and get into that smashing position that we saw from earlier. So really good crossface from top. Eventually he's going to get his heel to his butt and then pry the leg open. So you see that here, heel to butt, and he's going to pry down on that leg to pass through. Lachlan reguards. On the regard, Gordon Ryan goes and staples here, ends up passing around, and then goes from this sort of north-south position on the pass to then going to side control, then goes from side control to mount. And then from mount, just constantly looking for some arm triangles. Wasn't able to find anything, so eventually he decides that he's going to go for a gift wrap and then take the back off of that. So this is the gift wrap position right here. Fantastic position for MMA, one that I'd like to see some more in MMA, just because once you can trap this arm here, you're free to land a lot of punches. But then takes the back, as I mentioned. Again, same position. Left leg traps the left arm. Right arm's going to try to trap the right arm. In this case, it did not end up working out that way, where he just got the left arm in clean, or the left arm in cleanly. But even still, he gets a choke here that's kind of like on the nose and mouth. Hard to tell if it was like tight on the jaw or what exactly it was, but gets the tap regardless. So that puts him in the finals with Buchecha. Buchecha really went out of his way not to engage in positions where he could potentially get his leg caught, or at least not early. So you can see a lot of times with his hips back. But a really cool sweep early from Gordon, where he's able to sweep him with a butterfly sweep. Then Buchecha tries to come back on top. But again, if you look, a lot of times Buchecha's moving backwards, his hips are back. Again, trying to pass where he's not trying to cut through the guard, but trying to go around it. Gordon keeps working from there. Again, Buchecha keeps his hips back. Here he gets a negative point taken away for passivity, and then from there, Gordon's able to hang on and get the victory.